So, Alexander, when you first found out about Words for Charity, did you see it as an opportunity to be published in a curated collection or as a chance to use your talents and work to benefit charities?
Well, I think when I first discovered Words for Charity, it seemed like an opportunity to do both. I wasn't necessarily focused on getting myself published in a curated collection, but it set a deadline for something that had, to me, a really meaningful purpose. You know, it's a way to engage the public and do something positive for the public, and not only the public, but people who could really benefit from charities. And so I thought, why not try to do something that I love doing, and help people out for a cause that seemed really beautiful to me, and for an organization that seemed like they really had their mind in the right mood and direction. So it was a bit of both.
Nice.
As an undergrad, I don't really have my sights set necessarily on getting my work out and whatnot, because it's a constant development, a constant process. But this seemed like a beginning for not only myself, but for an organization that had a wonderful cause.
Wonderful. So out of all of the charities to raise money for, you chose Publish for Charity. Can you tell us why?
Well, you don't often hear of writing programs or programs that involve stories or collaborative space that is really trying to do a good or help out a community of people, especially through charities. And it's from my own experience, you have writing writing centers that are oftentimes lacking the funds necessary for what they wish to do. And so it seemed like a way to help promote the idea or the cause that they had in mind, because you have a lot of wonderful ideas, but it seems like sometimes you can't get those ideas materialized because you just don't have the funds. And so this seemed like a way to help develop and continue a process to grow.
Very nice. So have you shared your story on WFC through social media?
I have. I'm not very active on social media, and I don't really have an active following. It's more so sporadic fragments of ideas or pictures or thoughts. Oftentimes, I do share charitable causes on Facebook, especially for current events. And so I try to share with the people who are closest with me Words for Charity and the work that they're doing, and actually have them read my story as well as the other stories on the website. I don't know how well it worked, but I do know that the small community of people that I shared it with passed it along, and it really did contribute and give feedback to me directly about the website, the organization, and my writing.
Very nice. So you shared a wonderful story with WFC. Can we look forward to more stories for our readers?
I'd hope so. It's a sporadic event, writing short stories. I don't really have a compilation of any means, but I would like to continue working on short stories, and I think the first place I'd go to with them is Words for Charity. Because, like I said, it's a place that can have real impact on people, and it's not necessarily for my own interests. It's for an interest of a larger group.
Nice. So as you are refining your short story format, what do you enjoy most about the short story form, and what sets it apart?
Well, a short story to me has a very interesting cyclical property that I think you could see in many short stories, about how they move in a way that resonates throughout the entire story. It's almost like a fragment of an experience distilled and brought to share with the reader. I think it can have a very close engagement with the reader. It's short enough that you can get through with one sitting, and if it's good, I think it can have a real impact through that experience. And I think short stories also convey particular feelings very well. I think they're very good at bringing out an experience from an individual or a character within the story and sharing it with the reader. And I think that's what really sets them apart. A novel kind of gives a glimpse into the world of the character. Well, I think the short story gives a glimpse into the life or the moment or the feeling of a character. And it could be a couple of characters, but it really brings out, I think, the things that are often left unsaid in other forms of writing.
Very nice. And speaking of that, do you pull from your own life experiences for your stories?
I think that's really quite inevitable. Imagination is a large part, and imagination for me often comes with what experiences I've had throughout my life. And that goes to say, there's always truth. There's always a truth embedded in that imagination or in fiction. And so if the short stories I write, they rest somewhere between the imaginative fiction and the experience of nonfiction. And there's kind of a blurring between the two. And I think that when you have that flow between experience and imagination, some really interesting things can occur.
Very nice. So how do you see Words for Charity benefiting your own brand?
My own brand? That I haven't really thought of, to be honest, all that much. My own brand is a constantly changing brand. It's a brand that, for me, I would probably call how and where I want to live day to day. And it's a process. It's a constant revision for me as an undergraduate, trying to find out how, as a writer, I can make a meaningful relationship with the world, with people in the world. And that's a question of, I mean, for me at least, what is it and who is it I'm writing for? It's not for myself entirely. I think that would be dishonest, but I do. It's a vain thing. I think that a creative process. It's my own vanity. I would like people to enjoy the things I write, and I hope that people read it. But that's a very personal, person-to-person relationship.
So what's next for Alexander Zondervan?
What's next? It's a question I've been thinking about quite often. For me, what comes next is often, it's a series of fragments. It's a series of reflections and a series of questions, really. And that's kind of found its way into a practice of poetry, and I've been trying to write more spontaneously. And it felt most spontaneous and most natural, and also most engaged, not with myself, not writing to make a biography or snapshot of my own, whatever you want to call it, but to write in conversation with things or people or events. And so I've been trying to practice that through poetry, because I think poetry provides a medium for self-reflection, reflexivity, and also an engagement and critique and awareness with what's going on immediately around me. And it's also very beautiful, I think. Sometimes with writing poetry, your day or your life or your single moment can become something more than it is. It's a magic to me. So I would really like to continue working on poetry as long as short stories, as long along with short stories. And hopefully I can get a small compilation of poems that I feel are meaningful to myself and might be meaningful to other people together sometime soon.
Very nice. Very nice. So what advice would you give to our next round of story donors?
Don't wait. Don't wait. Writing is not a preparatory process. It's a process in itself, I think. You begin writing, whether it be a 5-minute free write where your pen or pencil doesn't stop moving, and then you can take that and begin again. I think writing is a process of beginning again and again. It's the courage to decide, I'm going to begin again. I'm going to start another revision. I'm going to take a chance, take a risk. And so I would say don't wait. I would say feel spontaneous and feel honest with yourself, because it's never a final product. And sometimes the most beautiful things are those moments where you are just moving through your own thoughts and feelings and reflecting on them. So if you feel something passionate, follow that.
Very good advice. Very good advice. So as your friends and family read your stories, did you get any feedback from them?
Yeah, I got feedback from them. They asked me, did this happen? Is this true? And I said, well, it depends on what you're talking about for what is true and what's not true. They had a lot of things to say. They said it was confusing. They said it was powerful. They said it was... they said nothing at times.
And how did that make you feel?
I really liked it when they had a strong feeling towards it, whether it be good or bad. Because then I'd wonder, why did you feel that? How did you relate yourself to the story to make that feeling happen? Because I think that meaning occurs between the audience or the individual and how they perceive whatever it is. And so that part really interests me. And I hope to take all those thoughts and feelings in mind for the next thing I work on and see how I can make even more feeling.
Very nice. So can you give future participants some advice on how you got your friends and family to download the story and donate to Words for Charity?
Yeah, I shared it. I texted people. I shared it on social media. And I think most of all, I really just talked about it. And for me, it's a little difficult. I'm shy, and I don't really like to have people necessarily read what I do, because I think at times I'm uncertain of what it is I do. But I think there has to be a courage to share what it is you want to happen. Hannah Arendt has this quote that comes to mind. I think it's no great deed is done out of public, something like that. And I think there's some truth in that. I think that to have a public life is to have the courage to speak publicly and ask people to engage with your thoughts and feelings.
Absolutely. It's exposure. It's like we were talking about last night, self-promotion. It's very difficult to do. Mm-hmm. So that being said, as an author, was it easier to promote by having people donate to your favorite charity versus just reading it because you've asked them to read it?
I think the charity aspect played a huge role. I think they felt like it was for something meaningful. Because, how much does a dollar cost? How much does it cost? And I think that really varies for a lot of people. And at the end of the day, for me, a dollar costs, I don't know, there's always something you could really put something. You can always give something up for something that is more important than yourself. And that's the way I see the donation as well as my writing, is that it's for something that is more meaningful than the self-congratulation or a pat on the back or a compliment or a criticism, because it goes beyond the self absorption. It goes beyond the vanity, I think, in a way.
It almost takes the attention away from you about when you're asking a person to do this because it's going to benefit this.
Exactly. And it's not like they're getting something in return. They're just getting something that's shared with them in the way, and what they contribute goes to something that is vastly beyond them and vastly not more important, but something to be aware of that is just as important, if not more immediately more important.
Very nice. So, Alexander, do you have any final thoughts for us?
I'm very excited to see where you're going, and I'm thrilled to watch you grow and develop, and I really hope to contribute and work further in the future with you, because like I said, I think there's nothing quite like it. I've never heard of anything before Words for Charity that does something similar to what you do, and I still don't see anything that's quite like it. And so I think it's an admirable and beautiful goal and process that you've set up, because it gives opportunities for writers to engage that process, at the same time collaborating with a larger community, which I think is very important to be aware of, because there's more than just your own thoughts when you're writing. There's more to that, I think.
Good. Well, we thank you for your story submission, and we wish you the best of luck and look forward to many more stories from you.
Thank you. It's been a real pleasure.